Hello, and welcome to another video from 3.5 Archive. Today we're going to be doing another D&D 3.5 Prestige class review, and we're going to be looking at the Dwarven Defender Prestige class from the Dungeon Master's Guide. And as one of the original Prestige classes from the DMG, we don't have a whole lot of high expectations, as these Prestige classes were less than stellar overall, but the Dwarven Defender certainly is an interesting one, if nothing else. Dwarven Defenders are dwarves that have trained in the art of fighting from a sort of combat stance where they stay still and plant their feet and gain legendary toughness and strength from doing so. And it's obviously a very defense-focused one. We'll see if it's worth taking. We'll see if the features that it gives you are any good. It's going to be an interesting discussion. To become a Dwarven Defender, you're going to need to be a dwarf. You need to be of lawful alignment, and you're going to need a base attack bonus of +7 or better. You're also going to need the feats of Dodge, Endurance, and Toughness. So those are not feats that you usually take as a fighter, and this Prestige class is geared toward a fighter, or maybe a knight from the Player's Handbook 2, or a paladin. A barbarian would pair pretty well with the class features here, actually, but unfortunately is disqualified due to the lawful alignment requirement. So the requirements for this Prestige class, while they're not too restrictive for a fighter, they do require you to take some feats that you would almost never take as a fighter. Endurance you might take as the prerequisite for Die Hard, but Die Hard isn't a very good feat, because it's one of those feats that you are only going to get use out of when you've already failed at your task of staying alive. Toughness is a famously bad feat. Improved Toughness as a substitute here might be okay, and I believe Improved Toughness actually does say that you can use it in place of Toughness for qualifying for other feats and, Prestige classes and the like. But even so, it's not a very good feat either. Dodge is pretty mediocre as well. If it was just a flat +1 to armor class, it would be okay, but having to designate a particular target that, you have to remember to use it and remember to include that bonus to your armor class, it just makes the feat a pain to use, and it's a lot less effective when it's only against one foe. So you have to take 3 very mediocre, just outright bad feats for a fighter, be level 7, and then you can start taking levels in Dwarven Defender. So you could look at this as a 2.5 feat tax to get into this Prestige class, as well as the fact that while you're in it, you're not taking fighter levels. So if you go all 10 levels in Dwarven Defender, you're missing out on 5 bonus feats. So we'll see if that's worth it. Let's take a look at what you get for being a Dwarven Defender. You're going to get a D12 hit die. You're going to get full base attack bonus, good fortitude save, and good will save. Good will save is actually really good for a fighter type class, as that's one of their weak points. So that's a point in this class's favor right off the bat. You're also going to get an AC bonus that's going to go from +1 up to +4 at level 10. And this is going to be a dodge bonus that'll stack with everything else. And that's really nice. It's not going to matter how heavy of armor that you're in. It's still going to apply. And that's pretty good. Improvements to armor class are always nice, especially since a fighter is one of those few classes that actually can focus on armor class if they're in heavy armor and really want to buff it up to the point where it might actually matter at high levels. So that's a good feature right there. At level 1, you're going to get Defensive Stance. This is going to give you a +2 to Strength, a +4 to Constitution, and a +2 Resistance bonus on all saves, as well as a +4 Dodge bonus to AC. The catch here is that you cannot move from the spot that you're defending. The Defensive Stance is going to last for a number of rounds equal to 3 plus your improved Constitution modifier. And while you can end your stance voluntarily, at the end of it, you're winded and take a -2 to penalty to Strength for the rest of the encounter. So at least you're not fully fatigued, but still there is a penalty for ending it early. So not only are you stuck, not wasting it, and it's only a once per day ability at level 1, you also take a penalty if you do have to move out of it, and it's only going to be a -1 to hit and damage, or maybe a -2 if you're unlucky with how things work out with the math of wielding a two-handed weapon. It's still a bit annoying, and the fact that you're standing still for this is a little bit interesting. It really heavily depends on the type of combats that your Dungeon Master runs, and the type of party that you're in, and the type of adventures that you go on. A lot of the time, fighters really do just stand in one place and swing their sword until the enemies are dead. Other enemies will just come to you because they will need to attack you in order to beat your party. And if you stay close enough to the rest of your group to defend them, maybe with a polearm or something, then this could be a pretty good option to just stand in one place. That said, if you're facing ranged foes, where you have to run from enemy to enemy and take them out one by one, Or if you're facing a highly mobile or flying monster, then your defensive stance is going to be next to useless. The +2 to strength is nice. It is a typeless bonus, so it would stack again with Barbarian if you were able to take levels in Barbarian. +4 to Constitution is great, and a +4 dodge bonus to AC on top of the armor class bonus you're already getting is pretty solid. Keep in mind again that, dodge bonuses do work perfectly fine in heavy armor. Nothing to do with maximum dexterity. So that is a really good way to improve your armor class past its normal boundaries. +2 on all saves is again great at preventing you from being charmed by enemy wizards. But staying in one place is a very difficult downside to quantify. So this is a very difficult feature to evaluate. Being once per day, at first, it's not really that exciting. And this is an interesting dip to think about for a fighter, because you're only going to be missing out on one bonus feat at this point, but you already missed out on 2.5 feats that you could have been using to improve your attack bonus, improve your saving throws, and even improve your armor class. That said, it would be hard to spend 2.5 feats, or even 3 feats, if we just write off dodge, and get +2 to strength equivalent, +4 to constitution equivalent, which would be the equivalent of taking improved toughness twice, just for the hit points, let alone the other benefits, +2 on all your saving throws. It's a resistance bonus, so it will overlap with your cloaker resistance, so that kind of sucks. But a +4 dodge bonus to armor class, that's hard to find from just 3 feats. I mean, there are some options. You could be taking like combat expertise or something, but that requires a penalty on your attack rolls. So this is giving you something that you couldn't normally get just from taking more levels in fighter. And while, again, it does come with this downside here of having to stay in one place, you probably can get away with it. It would be nice if you were allowed to at least take 5-foot steps. Even somebody with like a tower shield that's just kind of hunkering behind it and swinging with a polearm, spear, or axe or something like that should be able to kind of slowly, turtle their way around the battlefield. But apparently that wasn't in the cards for the Dwarven Defender. At level 2, you're going to get Uncanny Dodge. This works just like Uncanny Dodge works for every other class. You keep your dexterity bonus to AC against being caught flat-footed or struck by an invisible attacker. And if you already have Uncanny Dodge, you get Improved Uncanny Dodge. Not really sure why you would have that, since you can't be a Barbarian, and odds are you're not going to be like a Scout or a Rogue or anything becoming a Dwarven Defender, but it's in there just in case. At level 3, you're going to get a second use of Defensive Stance, so it's going to be a little bit more useful now. You're not going to want to use it in every single combat, so 2 uses per day, maybe 3 is probably the maximum you're really going to need. At level 4, you're going to get Trap Sense +1 for some reason. This prestige class seems to want to ape the Barbarian, even though it has nothing to do with Barbarians. Maybe they intended to be for ex-Barbarians, but really don't see why anybody would do that. At level 5, you're going to get a third use of Defensive Stance per day. Level 6, you're going to suddenly get Damage Reduction 3 out of nowhere, which is nice. And then you're also going to get Improved Uncanny Dodge. So if you already had it, then, well, you're not going to get anything out of this. But odds are you didn't, because odds are you came into this as a fighter or maybe a knight. Level 7, you get your 4th use per day of Defensive Stance. And then at level 8, you're going to get Mobile Defense. So finally, you're going to get some ability to move around. It would be nice if you got this automatically, because by this point, you're going to be a 15th level character. And a 5-foot step probably isn't even going to cut it anymore. But if you didn't have the penalty for ending your defensive stance, and it would make a little bit more sense, since you now have 5 uses per day of it, and you could see yourself using it multiple times per combat and moving in between them. Still, this is a really good feature. It saves the class, but it would be nice if it were in there earlier. But that is how it's written. Also at level 8, you get Trap Sense +2. Again, this is pretty disparate with the rest of the class, but it's in there. They had a pretty limited set of features to work with, I guess, for these early prestige classes, and they seem to have this idea that they would just tack on features from other classes that would somehow fill in the levels here. Not sure what they were going for there, but again, this is one of the first D&D 3.5 prestige classes, so we should cut them a little bit of slack. At level 9, you get 5 uses of Defensive Stance per day, and then at level 10, you get Damage Reduction 6/nothing. You just have flat damage reduction of 6, which is better than a Barbarian would be getting at this point, so that's something to keep in mind. So what should we think about the Dwarven Defender? Well, the higher level that you go, the more mobility that you're going to need as you face more and more flying opponents, opponents that can teleport or blast you with various area of effect abilities that make you want to get out of the way and get into cover. The Dwarven Defender already starts you out as an 8th level character with an ability once per day that lets you not move at all for a lot of good combat buffs, but really, you probably could just take for some levels in Barbarian. Dodge bonus to armor class is nice, but really, you would have to really focus on this to make it a viable option for your character to really get your armor class up there. I mean, you will be having a +8 dodge bonus overall, higher than you would normally have, which will put you in a whole nother league of armor class, and it might actually make it so that the math works out that you actually are getting hit less often. But really, I mean, you get to the really high levels, the monster attacks become so ridiculous that you're better off with something like a Cloak of Displacement, and if you want to increase your effective hit points. And while mobile defense does help a bit, it should come a lot earlier. It should be coming in around the time that your trap sense does. And you should be getting a lot more uses of this per day, or at least some kind of improvement to the benefits that it gives you. I mean, if you're going to be staying still at higher levels, you need to get some truly prodigious bonuses in order to justify doing that. That said, the Dwarven Defender isn't really terrible. Overall, I would give it 3 stars for concept and 2 stars for execution. Arguably 3 if you are in the right kind of campaign for it, where you're fighting a lot of enemies on even ground and they come to you. And there's not a lot of, creative or difficult encounters. And while that might make for a boring campaign, that makes for a great place for the Dwarven Defender to thrive, where they can just stand there, enter their defensive stance, and just hammer away with a great armor class and a lot more hit points. So overall, the Dwarven Defender's not really a great option. You're better off just going for continuing on in Fighter. While the bonuses it gives you are tempting, they're really not that great overall. And the random, Barbarian-related features like Uncanny Dodge and Trap Sense are just kind of weird. The damage reduction is great, but it's probably not worth giving up 3 feats. If you're really flush with feats and you really don't know what to do with them, then the Dwarven Defender is not a bad idea, but odds are you could probably find a better and more effective build to help out your party. So that'll be about it for this D&D 3.5 Prestige class review. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. Let me know what Prestige class you'd like to see reviewed next, and any other things you'd like to see for videos related to D&D 3.5. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time, here on 3.5 Archive.